It is often argued that because of the kind of religious extremism that exists in Pakistan, the solution to it is more secularism. That the reason we are suffering from the problems of fundamentalism and fundamentalist Islam is because our state is not adequately secular, and the population at large is not adequately secular. Now, if you think about how the term secular is used, or how secularism is used in this kind of an argument, it is that secularism is actually the absence of religion, or it is the separation of religion from state. Now, this is an old idea. It is an idea that has existed since in liberal political thought, since the end of the 19th century and onwards. But in the last 20 years, this idea that secularism is about the separation of religion and state, or that it is about the absence of religion, as some people would say in Urdu, it's la diniya, it's non-religious, has really been challenged by scholars. In the Anglo-European literature, this has really been challenged by a whole set of theorists and historians and anthropologists. And they argue that actually secularism is not the separation of religion and state, and in fact what you have in modernity, in the modern period, is actually the modern state has become more and more involved in the regulation of religious life and religious institutions. And so secularism is not simply the separation of religion and state. In fact, secularism is the increased involvement of the state in the regulation of religious life, such that the state is given the power to be able to say what is proper religion and what is not. Now, when Islamist movements argue or struggle for seizing the state and making state their weapon through which, or their means through which they want to Islamicize the society, they're actually very much a part of the modern conception of the secular state, in which they think that it's only through seizing the state that they're going to make the society more religious. Now, this idea that it is only through the state that you can moralize a people or make them morally more pliant is a very modern conception. Even though, of course, in history empires have existed, and certainly Islamic empires, Umayyads and Abbasids and so on have existed. But mind you, that they did not consider their aim to necessarily Islamicize the people. Yes, they converted and so on and so forth, but the conception of the pre-modern state was very different from the conception of the modern state. And so it is only with the modern state, and it's not only in Islamic societies, that you get this sense that the state is really the arbiter of creating a morally religious, compliant society. So Iran is an example, Saudi Arabia is an example. And these states are no less modern than other states of Europe or America. Now, of course, there are differences between them. Clearly, the Iranian state embraces Islam as its political ideology in a way that's, let's say, that the American state does not. However, even in America, Protestantism is a very crucial aspect that informs almost all laws and practices. And it has a different structure, which is not the same as that of, let's say, the Iranian state. But nonetheless, you cannot therefore say that it is any less or more secular than other kinds of modern states. So this is the way in which the relationship between religion and secularism has been really reconceptualized in much of the recent literature. And so in my recent book, which is called Religious Difference in a Secular Age, I try to actually think about what religion has become under the regulation of the modern state, particularly in Egyptian history, in the case of Egypt.